Hello, it's Simon Lewis from Onshaw.net with another video, and this time I am exploring the world of newsletters. If you're as old as me, you might remember a time when there was no such thing as newsletters, but they became a bit fashionable back in the day for a while, when a piece of paper was photocopied with all the news happening in schools, and you would find it at the bottom of your child's school bag, covered in a squished banana, until the internet came along and changed everything. And now many schools share their news with parents using a variety of tools. I thought it might be a good idea to see a few options that are out there and pick what I would do if I was choosing a newsletter. So without further ado, let's get into it. This video has basically been taken from a blog article called 6 Ways to Send eNewsletters for Primary Schools on my Medium blog, which you can find on simonmlewis.medium.com, or you can go to onshaw.net. If you like this video, of course, you should subscribe. I think that young people say, smash that like button, and I don't know what they do, notifications or something. I don't know. I'm not cool enough. Let's get on with it, as I said. And by the way, my podcast is available on your favorite podcasting apps, and you should tune into that if you can. Okay, let's get started with what I use in my school, which is Google Sites. I love Google Sites. I use it for almost so many different things within my school. I have my staff intranet, so that's our internal site where I share all the school plans. We don't have folders or anything like that stuck in my office with all the school plans. They're all on a Google Site. And what I love about Google Sites is how easy they are to use, and you can do almost anything. For example, in my school, which is an Educate Together school, we have our Learn Together page, where there's links to loads and loads of documents, and they can be embedded. So if you're using Google as your backend, it's a really good way of putting together all your documents to a nice place, links to websites, images, and all sorts of things. I think it's great. But I also use it for our school newsletter, and I'll just show you what that looks like. This is our newsletter page, so you can see that there. And I've been using it for about 7 years. It's now 2024. And this was the first newsletter on that. I used to send emails, I think, if I remember correctly. But what I have, it's basically a little web page, and it just gives all the news that's available there, and it goes on all the way up until 2024. So you can see that all ongoing. I find it really good because it's so easy to do. The only issue I would have is that if you want parents to know about it, you can't just leave it up there. You have to tell them. So I have to email the parents to let them know with a link to the newsletter to say, the newsletter's up. I also put it on our Facebook page. And I suppose the advantage is that it's really easy to use. It's drag and drop. You can create all your news very easily. The disadvantage is you still have to have a second step where you actually have to let your parents know that the newsletter is out. And I would use Aladdin, which is our MIS, which would basically send a message out to parents saying, click on this link to get to the newsletter. Ideally, what I'm looking for is a newsletter that's easy to make and easy to use, but also automatically is sent or is got to parents or subscribers. Google Sites does is it allows me to make really nice looking newsletter with you can copy and paste images and things like that as well. There's no images in this, is there? There isn't. But if I go back to, let's say, if I go back to 2020, maybe there was nothing during the pandemic, but back to September. We'll always remember, you can see I was able to copy and paste images from our Facebook page. So it's really nice, very simple, but you do have to let parents know. So let's move on to something else, because my website, the school website, is based on WordPress. Like I wouldn't say most schools, but a lot of schools use WordPress as their backend. So why not use newsletter plugin to basically make your newsletter? And it's a really good idea, because your newsletter basically becomes a blog post on your website, and people can subscribe to it. So you can add all the email addresses of all your families, and essentially when it's published, it will send an email to your parents. I googled the best newsletter plugins that are out there, and this is when I got loads and loads of options, basically mainly from the likes of MailChimp and Brevo and MailerLite and various other places that actually have their own newsletter software, which have WordPress plugins. But I did find one which I quite liked, and it might be worth exploring if you don't already have a newsletter option. you can use your WordPress site as a newsletter. And it's got a very creative name. It's called the Newsletter plugin. And the Newsletter plugin is quite cool, I have to say. And if I was starting all over again, I'd definitely consider it because it has loads and loads of features to make it really easy to build a newsletter. It's very easy to make your newsletter, but then to get it out to people who subscribe to your newsletter. So you'd probably add all your family's details in there. The advantages are you have everything in one place. Once you make your newsletter, it goes out to your families with one click. The disadvantage is probably a security one. How do you stop non-families from getting your newsletter or subscribing to your newsletter? Now, that may not be an issue for you because I suppose your newsletter is going to be public anyway, but you may find your WordPress blog, your website, getting a bit clunky after a while if you have lots and lots of email addresses subscribed to it. So you're going to have every parent that signs up is going to have a subscription account, which so if parents leave, they'll still get it. They'll have to leave themselves and so on. There isn't a real kind of automated way for families to come and go as they come and leave the school. It's a good option, I think, if you're a small school because you won't have to, because you'll probably have alumni and all the rest of it, people who want to stay in touch even when they leave. But definitely worth considering. That's the newsletters. After that, there's nothing stopping you using some of the very established newsletter or mailing list software. The most famous of those is MailChimp. For those of you who don't know what MailChimp is, it's basically a very powerful newsletter tool, or well, really it's a mailing list tool. So people sign up to your mailing list and you can send them as many emails as you like. You can have up to 1,000 subscribers who you can email for free, I think. So that's pretty good. Now, it's huge and you can do so much, and it may be too much for a school. And it has all the positives of doing it on WordPress, but all the negatives as well as doing it with WordPress. So again, you have to control who can subscribe, who can't subscribe, putting on your subscribers, taking out your subscribers. But it is a really good thing if you're a small enough school who only needs to send a certain amount of emails every month. Might be worth considering. Another similar option, this is one I use for the onshaw.net newsletter. This is Brevo. It used to be known as SendBlue. And again, I really like it. It's very similar to MailChimp. Again, if you're a small enough school, I think if you've got, you can have 300 subscribers for free. So if you're a school with 300 or fewer people in it, you can use it completely for free. And it's very good and works. But again, similarly, you have to keep updating your mailing list manually, which might be a problem. So what we're seeing now is we have two options. So you can create your newsletters and then email everyone to let them know that the newsletter's up. Or you can have this software so far like Brevo, MailChimp, WordPress, where you can create it and email the stuff on at the same time, but you have to do that other step of keeping your list updated all the time, which is a bit of a pain, I can imagine. I was exploring a little bit more, and one app that came up was this one, and it seems like somebody went on a course one day, or somebody was designing a course one day, and they were telling all the principals about this site called Smore. I've never heard of it before, except it came up on a mailing list I'm on, where a lot of schools seem to be using it. And it seems to be a newsletter piece of software designed specifically for schools. I had a look at it and it looks very similar to MailChimp or Brevo, but much less powerful, if I'm honest. And again, has all the issues that they would have. The best thing I can say about it is that it does have a very gorgeous website. But I would say that I wouldn't see a massive advantage to it compared to what you're offered with Brevo or SendBlue or MailChimp, or even hosting it yourself on WordPress. It is also $99 a year, so you have to pay for it. But it looks fine. I don't think it isn't the silver bullet that I'm looking for, which is something where you don't have to really do anything except write your newsletter. But it's definitely an option. I know a lot of schools use it and like it. It might be worth exploring if you've heard of it. As I said, it does a principal's newsletter, or teachers can join in. I think probably where it's very powerful is where you have a lot of people writing newsletters. So you might have a situation where a school has its newsletter, but lots of people within the school input into it. So maybe that's an option if you've got multiple authors. I'm a lone wolf in the newsletter world in my school. I just send a newsletter every month. to the families to let them know what's going on. So then I thought, maybe there is another option. And maybe we don't have to have specific newsletter software. And maybe we have the solution right in front of our nose. And I was thinking, every time I make a newsletter, I go to Aladdin and I send an email with a link to a newsletter. And I was only thinking, wouldn't it be possible to simply skip the middleman and go straight to Aladdin to make a newsletter? Now, Aladdin, as most teachers or most principals will know, has revolutionized the administrative side of being a principal. Not only was it the final nail in the coffin for physical roll books, it also gives you so much information and so many tools that I can imagine if you're a new principal, you wouldn't believe what we had to do before that. Think of parent-teacher meetings. Think of end-of-year reports. Think of all these kind of things that you probably take for granted. And Aladdin is the answer to the question. So I was thinking, what about it for newsletters? And I was thinking, they don't have a newsletter function per se, but they have two particular options. One is they have a notice board, and you could create a notice board notice with your newsletter items. Now, granted, it's going to be quite basic, but if you're not that interested in aesthetics, but you want to get the information out there, you could put up something on the notice board, and any of your parents, because they'll all be there on your Aladdin app, go on the Aladdin app and they will see the newsletter for that month. Another option is to simply email it to all the parents, because you can send emails on Aladdin and you can create your newsletter as an email. Again, cutting out the middleman. So why wouldn't you do that? Is the question. To me, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this sounds so simple. Why didn't I think of that? And the reason really is that it actually has the opposite problem of the other apps, which is if I wanted to look into the archives of my previous newsletters, let's say if I go back to my Google site here, I can see every newsletter from when I began using the site there, and you can see I've every single one of them. That wouldn't be possible really with Aladdin. You could technically scroll back through all your notices and all your notice boards and see these kind of things. But in reality, I suppose what you need to be doing is you need to be copying and pasting your newsletter on Aladdin and putting it somewhere a little bit more permanent for people to see. So in a way, you're doing two jobs as well. And in some ways, I think some parents do looking back into the past. In fact, gosh, I wonder what they were doing this time 7 years ago. No, I don't know if people really do that with school newsletters. They only do that on Instagram and Facebook, don't they? But my point being is getting a permanent record and storing it somewhere is possibly important to some schools. And for me, I think that is probably a little bit of a deal breaker. So I think when it comes down to me, Aladdin on its own probably just isn't enough. But it may be an option for you because you don't have the hassle of working out, oh, who's on the mailing list, who's not. Because if you use Aladdin, all your parents, all your families are already there. And it's simply a matter of putting up a notice on the notice board or sending an email with all the news. And that's your newsletter done. So I figured out I need something that does all these things after all of that. And that is, I need something that creates a really nice newsletter. I needed to have all of my families on it at all times, and I don't want to have to be updating it from time to time. And I want to be able to make it and click it, and it will be there. I wonder, does that exist? Well, the answer is perhaps. I'm an Aladdin user for a long time, and I was trying very hard to get Aladdin to work with third-party solutions, and it happened this year, very quietly, but it has definitely happened because Aladdin have teamed up with a company called Wonde. And if you've been to the IPPN conference in the last 2 years, you will have seen a very big stall called Wonde, Wonde. And Wonde essentially is a company that link your MIS, so Aladdin in our case, to a third-party tool. For example, when I have a child enrolling in my school, I have Wonde installed, and what Wonde does is it links up with Google and it automatically creates Google accounts for the children on Aladdin. I also have a safety app, so a child protection app, And again, it imports the children's names and so on, so that I don't have to do that on that app. So that if I have a concern about a child, the child will already, if they're enrolled on Aladdin, they will automatically be on that app. So it links your database in a secure way with third-party apps. So I wondered, does Aladdin with Wonde integrate with another app? And lo and behold, after a little bit of a Google search, I found something called Schoolzine. And Schoolzine looks to be very interesting. And it seems to tick all of my boxes. Now, I'm not interested in a school website because I already have one. But I am interested in eNewsletters. Not particularly interested in a school app, though you might be. And I'm not interested in parents' booking system because I already have that through Aladdin. But certainly for eNewsletters, I'm very interested. And what I'm looking for here is exactly provided by this, where I can put up information, school newsletters, and and parents will be able to see them. What I want to make sure is which parents get them and how do they get them. And this is where the magic of the Wonde link is. So for any child that is enrolled in the school, what I think we could do is get Aladdin to go with Wonde to link with Schoolzine, and all of a sudden we have all our boxes ticked. What's the problem? What's the catch? To be honest, I don't know yet, because I've only this week written to Schoolzine to ask them a few questions. The first one is, how much is it? Because I don't know. There's no price in the whole thing because everything just looks really good. And so I hope it's not too expensive. And the other question is, will it actually work with Aladdin? I can't see a reason why it wouldn't. So really, I suppose I'm left in the situation that if I want to tick all my boxes, so far Schoolzine looks like it may be the silver bullet that I've been looking for. But if not, I think it depends on what you want. I've been very happy using the school newsletter, the Google Sites for my school newsletter for about 7 or 8 years. I know lots of schools are very happy using Smore at the moment, and though many I know are using MailChimp and some Brevo. And as I said, if they have a WordPress website, there's no harm in using the newsletter plugin. As I said, Aladdin might not have been an option for you if you're a principal, but maybe it should be if you're not that interested in keeping your newsletters after they have been sent. But for me, I think the questions are all out there for Schoolzine, and I think I might be doing a little bit of a review on that over the coming weeks. I hope you've enjoyed this little whirlwind tour of the various apps that you can do for eNewsletters. If you've enjoyed this video or any of the others, you can subscribe to my Onshot.net YouTube channel, or you can listen to my podcast, which is available every fortnight, where I explore the world of primary education. If you are interested in some of my other escapades, I also run a really interesting website called mash.plus, not to be confused with mash.ie, which is a commercial site that I run. Mash.plus for the moment is not a commercial site. It's a playground, which, full disclosure, may be monetized. But for the moment, what I'm using it as an AI playground. And if you're listening to this or watching this, right now I have 126 complete units of work on inspirational women just in time for International Women's Day. You can find that on mash.plus, and it is absolutely free. That is it for me. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back with another video in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll chat to you then. All the best. Bye bye.